And we have some breaking news just coming in. Representative Chris Stewart, he is a Republican from Utah. He is a member of the House Intelligence Committee. He has just revealed on Twitter that the whistleblower's complaint that some members of Congress have been reviewing throughout the day today, that it has now been declassified, he says. And he adds in his tweet, "I encourage you all to read it." It has not yet been made available to the general public, but obviously its declassification is a major step in that direction. Again, that news coming in from a member of the House Intelligence Committee, Chris Stewart, Republican from Utah. With us tonight, Andrew Desiderio, congressional reporter for Politico, and Jackie Alemany, Politico reporter for The Washington Post and author of the paper's morning newsletter, Power Up. Thanks to both of you for being with us. Andrew, let me just start with you. This news we are just getting about the whistleblower's report, we have been hearing members of Congress today say some very suggestive things about its content. It now would seem to be a matter of time before all of us get to see it. Is that correct?
That's right. There's no timetable yet for the release of this document, or these documents, rather. It's probably a very long whistleblower complaint based on what I heard from lawmakers today. But the declassification process has essentially been completed. That's what Congressman Stewart was announcing. Something important to remember here was that lawmakers on the Intelligence Committee only got to view the contents of the complaint today. They did not get to view the full Inspector General's report, which they expect to be delivered to Capitol Hill sometime tomorrow or on Friday. That report will show corroborating documents, interviews with other people who might have knowledge of the allegations that the whistleblower has leveled against either the president or other individuals in the White House. So that is going to be another really important piece of information for lawmakers to view here in the coming days.
Jackie, I'm wondering what you are hearing about the potential impact of this whistleblower's complaint. You have some Republicans even, and I saw Ben Sass from Nebraska, I think we put his quote up earlier, not saying nothing to see here.
Yeah. Well, I think it's pretty notable that since, post 4 p.m. today, when the whistleblower's complaint was finally made available to members of Congress, that there hasn't been a Republican who has come out with as, forceful of a defense as we've seen of President Trump earlier in the day. But I think this just increases the amount of pressure that the acting director of the DNI, Joseph Maguire, is going to be under tomorrow when he has to publicly testify in front of the House Intelligence Committee, behind closed doors and in front of closed doors. He's in a pretty precarious situation. As my colleagues reported today, he threatened to resign if he was not able to be forthcoming with the information that he is aware of with regards to the whistleblower's complaints. He's already come under scrutiny and severe criticism for the way he's handled the complaint up until now. And I think tomorrow is going to be a real test with the intelligence community, watching to see how he handles it and whether or not he's truthful with the way that he, I think, calls out the White House for some of the falsehoods that they've been putting forth. As Andrew knows as well, the White House pushed out all of their talking points today to House Democrats, who then quickly leaked it to reporters. So we know exactly what the White House is saying about this episode and the president's conversation with the Ukrainian president. And it's not based in reality. And so, I think it'll be up to Maguire to call out, what he is telling lawmakers behind closed doors in these skiffs about the reality of the whistleblower's complaint and what the narrative that the White House is trying to push forward themselves.
We should know, too, that Joseph Maguire, the DNI did deny threatening to resign today. Those reports certainly are out there. Obviously, this is a name that's new to a lot of people in the last couple of days. The Director of National Intelligence, new to the job as well. The Wall Street Journal is reporting in terms of Joseph Maguire's background, quote, Maguire was viewed as a steady hand by Democrats and Republicans alike when he was named by Mr. Trump. The political winds in Washington and the glare of congressional hearings are a long way from Mr. Maguire's roots, which lie in the secretive work of special operations units that conduct dangerous missions to battle terrorists and retrieve hostages. He spent 36 years as a Navy SEAL, eventually commanding the Naval Special Warfare Command. Andrew, Jackie was getting into this, but in terms of the very peculiar situation that Maguire finds himself in here, you've got this whistleblower's complaint. It reached the Inspector General that said this needs to go to Congress. And then you had Maguire saying no. What can you expect from him tomorrow?
Well, I think the question that Democrats in particular want to see answered is the extent to which he was in communication with the Justice Department ahead of the potential release of this whistleblower complaint to Congress, which, as you know, is required by law. The questions could be anything from, did the Justice Department reach out to you first? Did you seek guidance from the Justice Department? Of course, the law states that the DNI should act independently from the Justice Department when it comes to these matters. That'll be a top question for Democrats to ask and to try to get answers on. If they don't get answers from the acting DNI tomorrow, we reported yesterday that a couple of Democrats on the Intelligence Committee, which, by the way, is a much smaller committee compared to other panels on Capitol Hill, a bunch of Democrats really do want to see Chairman Schiff get more aggressive and more aggressively confront these witnesses at these hearings, which, as we've seen in the past, for example, last week with Corey Lewandowski, where they're just not answering questions and they're relying on these executive privilege claims from the White House. So a lot of Democrats are going to want to see a more aggressive confrontation in that respect. I asked Chairman Schiff about this last night, and he wouldn't commit to any punitive measures ahead of time. But this is just a reflection of sort of the seismic shift we have seen over the last few days among the House Democratic caucus. They have really unified behind this Ukraine scandal in terms of their outrage. We saw the number, of course, of lawmakers supporting an impeachment inquiry jump to, I believe it's around 219 right now, which is a majority of the House. You only need 218 votes to impeach a president on the floor. So it really is reaching a really serious situation here. And Speaker Pelosi obviously jump-started that with her pronouncement yesterday.
We mentioned a minute ago that Chris Stewart, a member of the Intelligence Committee, the House Intelligence Committee, said that the whistleblower's complaint had been declassified. NBC News has now confirmed that. NBC News has confirmed the whistleblower's complaint has been declassified, also with minimal redactions. That's what NBC News is now reporting, and that it is expected to be made available to the public tomorrow morning. So that's the latest we know about that. Jackie, the name Corey Lewandowski just came up there from as Andrew was discussing this testimony tomorrow. Obviously, Corey Lewandowski extremely combative, uncooperative with that committee when he recently appeared. But again, the background of McGuire suggests this might be a different. He might handle this differently tomorrow.
That's exactly right. And I spent the day reaching out to McGuire's former peers and coworkers and friends, and they said to anticipate the exact opposite of what we saw last week with Corey Lewandowski's hearing, which was really directed to the audience of one, to pleasing the president and getting that endorsement for his Senate run, as we saw Lewandowski tweet out actually a link to a potential website teasing his run. McGuire is the antithesis of that. He's apolitical. A career intelligence official, served in the Navy for 26 years. As his friends say, they don't expect him to be auditioning for the president despite his acting director title, and expect him to be straightforward and apolitical with the facts, despite the criticism that he has received for the way he's handled this whistleblower's complaint. As one source who formerly worked with McGuire said to me, at this point, the way that the whistleblower's complaint came to light, the way it surfaced, is actually the sideshow. And at the end of the day, this really is about the president, impeachment, and the Constitution. But again, the intelligence community will be watching McGuire closely, and the way he handles and defends the intelligence community as the president has increasingly politicized the situation.
All right, Jacqueline Alemany, Andrew Desiderio, thank you both for being with us.
Thank you.
And
Thanks,
coming
Steve.
up, the case Democrats are building against the president may soon become too much for some Republican lawmakers to ignore. It could. We will find out if it will. The 11th hour, back after this.